I guess in regards to finances, probably one of the biggest problems that I had was that I just, I don't know, I just feel like maybe I just was deserved to have everything that I wanted, and so I would incur debt, or I tried to live beyond my means, and this was before we were ever married, and consequently I made a lot of bad judgment calls, or made some mistakes, made some poor choices in what I chose to spend money on. Or one of my largest issues was just kind of ignoring the debt that I had. I had gone to school, and my student loans were in default, and I had moved, and so I just pretty much quit paying on my student loans, and they accrued interest regardless of whether I ignored them or not. So a small loan turned into a large debt, and over a period of 10 years of being in default on a loan, I just it accrued so much interest that it was starting to become overwhelming.
So when we got engaged to be married, I knew one of the things that we were going to have to talk about in our premarital counseling was our finances. And I was fortunate enough to grow up with parents, and my dad especially, who was really good with finances and about stewardship and being financially responsible. And so when we were close to getting married, I confronted Paul about this debt, and I asked him, we need to be honest, and I need to be able to trust you, and what's going on with your finances.
Yeah, and I wanted to be, honestly, I wanted to be at a point where when we were ready to buy a house, that I would be able to, get a loan for a home and take care of my wife, and if we needed a car, we would be able to purchase the car that we needed, and those were the things that I wanted to be able to do. And gosh, I don't know if I really looked for answers in my flesh, but I certainly wasn't looking for any sort of spiritual answer. I could say that. But I do want to say that one of the things that I started doing was tithing, and I'm sure Pastor preached a sermonette before he received the offering about tithing and the tithing principle and giving. And one of the things that people always say is, that we can test the Lord in this, see if He won't open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you cannot contain. And I remember thinking about that. Well, sure, that sounds good on paper, but how does that play out in real life? And I truly believe, and I honestly believe, that one of the blessings that the Lord blessed me with through just saying, okay, God, I am gonna honor you in my giving. I'm gonna honor you with the tithe, is that He sent Heather into my life, and He sent Pastor into my life to teach me about how to recover my finances, get through this period of my life, pay off my debt, and really just work towards a plan in becoming debt free. And
so we confronted that issue, and we took care of his debt that he had, but still, I think the mindset was still there of, I deserve these things, or this is what I want. And it affected our marriage because I felt bullied. I felt manipulated into getting things that I didn't agree with, and we weren't in agreement about it. But yet I had to ask the Holy Spirit, what do I do? And finally, the Holy Spirit was like, just let Him get it. And what happened was I think it was He was able to see how it affected our family, how much stress it put, the lack of peace, and I think the lack of togetherness between us, because that had caused a wall between us, and I felt I couldn't trust him. And I was never dishonest with him, but I didn't divulge all of, like if we had extra money in our bank account, I wouldn't tell him, or how much we were getting back in our tax returns, because I felt as soon as it came in the bank, he already had it earmarked for something that he wanted. And so there was a little bit of distrust and dishonesty and lack of agreement with our finances. And it's been a process. And I really feel by not accusing him or by not badgering him, but really surrendering him to the Holy Spirit and asking God for the right times for us to talk about these things. And eventually, bit by bit and year by year, we've come more into alignment to where right now, I really feel that this is...
And it has been a process.
We
should say that. It wasn't all of a sudden this, ding, I need to quit spending money on stupid things or the things that I want to spend them on. It really was a process, and, we made mistakes. I should say I made mistakes along the way. I'm sure maybe I'll make another one of these days, but we're just, I thank God for giving me a wife. I feel that was another one of those blessings, that I couldn't contain, that God really blessed me with somebody that was, that knew what she was talking about in finance. She was raised in a home where she was taught principles, financial principles, that debt is not good, and that.
And I think too, just the fact that he finally, I didn't trust him, but he also didn't trust me. And I think that the Holy Spirit, gives us sometimes as wives discernment. And now he'll listen to me, and I respect him when he does want to do something. And I think it's that respect, that mutual respect, that's really brought us to this point now, 7 years later in our marriage, where we have everything paid off, and we now our desires are in alignment. Now we do have delayed gratification, that we do save for things, and we both see, does this benefit our family, or is this just benefit one person? And so even our faith vision and trust between each other has grown. And
also, because we want to talk about a little bit about the process of how you get to that place where you are debt free is essentially, and it sounds very simple, but paying off debt. You've got to pay off your debt that you owe, and you can't avoid it. You can't just put it on another credit card and expect that it'll go away. And even if it's a lower interest credit card, it is going to be there until you begin to pay it off. And we started a very definitive process of paying off debt. We started with the one with the largest interest rate and worked our way towards the ones with, or sometimes we would take one that was, we would take a piece of debt that was small enough, and it was a bite-sized chunk that we could pay that off. And one of the more practical sides of how the Lord just really blessed us in this was that we would, when we paid off debt, we would take that payment that we were making, and we wouldn't say, oh, now we have $100 a month that we have to spend now. No, we would take that extra $100 and compound it towards and paying off more of our debt.
And I think what it's done for us is now we have goals for our family and for our marriage and for our kids. And there's a hope, and just to see that we've come out of this darkness, this place where we felt hopeless, or that we can't go anywhere, and now we're starting to get freedom, and it's exciting, and it's encouraging, and it's hopeful. And so I just really thank God for those principles that we had early in our marriage, because I can't imagine where we would be, or if we'd even be together, if we did not realize that, he's not my enemy and I'm not his, but God gave us each other to conquer this and to win and have freedom. And so it's really exciting.